So let's just get right into it. When OpenAI dropped its latest model, the internet pretty much had a collective meltdown. And the weirdest part? Developers were, cautiously optimistic. But regular users? Well, they were not thrilled. So what is going on? Why does it seem like everyone hates the new ChatGPT?
It all really comes down to these gut reactions, just like this one. I mean, this comment is from a thread with thousands of upvotes, and it just perfectly captures this feeling that exploded online, seemingly overnight, a feeling that something really important was just gone. To really understand what happened, we've got to look at how this single update created this huge divide. It's truly a tale of two completely different user experiences.
See, this new model was supposed to be this massive leap forward. And look, for developers, in a lot of ways it was. But for so many of us, the everyday users, it felt like a giant step back. It basically split the entire user base into two totally opposing camps.
And this right here shows that split perfectly. On one side, you have the developers and the big business users. They saw a more powerful, a more methodical tool that was great for complex stuff. But on the other side, you've got the everyday chat users, who just felt like the chatbot's creativity and its entire personality had been completely gutted.
Here's a perfect example from the developer side of things. Matt Schumer points out that the new model doesn't just jump to writing code. It actually stops, it thinks, it asks clarifying questions, and it really tries to understand the problem first. Now, for complex, high-stakes work, that is a huge upgrade. But then you get this. The polar opposite. This Reddit user sums up what thousands of people were feeling. They found the new model just sterile, unengaging. That spark that made conversations feel real and natural was gone. And it was replaced by something that felt, like they said, a corporate bot.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this table shows the trade-offs in black and white. To get that massive boost in complex reasoning, OpenAI sacrificed conversation quality and creative writing. And just look at that last row. Censorship and refusals went from being a moderate concern to a major backlash. So the key takeaway here is that this wasn't an upgrade across the board. It was a very strategic trade-off.
So why? Why make these trade-offs? To get that, we have to look at the whole context of the release. Because this wasn't some normal planned product launch. No, this was a panic move.
This timeline really tells the entire story. So after a shaky launch, OpenAI puts out an update that users actually loved for its personality. But then, just 1 month later, bam, a competitor drops a model that beats them on key performance tests. So what does OpenAI do? They declare an internal code red and rush out a brand new version to try and compete.
And this quote from tech influencer Mario Nawfal just captured the narrative perfectly. It wasn't just another product update. People saw it as a sign of existential panic. A company scrambling to hold on to its top spot in the great AI race. And that rushed, panicked feeling colored how every single user saw the model's flaws.
Okay, so we know the release was rushed. We get that. But that still doesn't quite explain why the model feels so broken to so many of us. The answer, it turns out, lies in this really strange technical failure, where the AI's own safety features actually get in the way of common sense. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's not just about being boring. Users were reporting that it's inconsistent, that it gives different answers to basically the same question, and sometimes it refuses perfectly harmless requests. So, what is going on under the hood? Well, this whole phenomenon actually has a name: semantic confusion. It's what happens when a model gets tripped up by tiny, insignificant changes in wording. It understands the individual words, sure, but it completely misses the identical intent behind them. And that leads to these wildly different outcomes for what is, for all intents and purposes, the exact same request.
And check this out. Here is a perfect real-world example of this in action. Both of these prompts are asking for the exact same information, right? You're getting ready for a job interview. But the model says yes to the first one and no to the second. That is semantic confusion, and it is incredibly frustrating for users because the model's behavior just feels completely arbitrary and unpredictable. But here's the thing. This robotic feel, this semantic confusion, it's not just an accident from a rushed release. There's a much deeper and honestly a much more serious reason behind these changes. A reason that has absolutely nothing to do with benchmarks and everything to do with risk.
Because while that whole code red scramble to beat a competitor was happening, a much bigger fire was burning in the background. A crisis of legal and financial risk so immense that it would force OpenAI to fundamentally change how the model behaves.
The company is facing multiple absolutely devastating lawsuits. And we're not talking about minor complaints here. These are wrongful death cases, alleging the chatbot played a direct role in suicides and even a murder-suicide. The legal and ethical stakes for the company are just astronomical.
This detail from the actual legal filing in the Rainey v. OpenAI case it's harrowing. According to the lawsuit, after a teenager survived a suicide attempt, he told the chatbot he was just practicing, and the AI allegedly gave him technical instructions. This one allegation just reveals the catastrophic potential of an AI that fails to understand context and intent.
And this quote right here connects all the dots. An AI alignment researcher explained that the new model's super-conservative, robotic nature, it isn't a bug, it's a feature. It is a direct, calculated response to these lawsuits. OpenAI is desperately trying to stop the bleeding by making the model so risk-averse that it can't possibly enable another tragedy.
So, where does that leave us? What does this all mean for the future of AI? Well, this entire situation really highlights a fundamental, maybe even an impossible challenge that every single AI developer is now facing.
People are starting to call it the AI trilemma. You have three competing goals. First, you want raw capability. That's the raw power that developers love. Second, you want an engaging personality. That's the spark that the rest of us miss. And third, you absolutely need critical safety, the guardrails to prevent horrible outcomes. The impossible problem is that, right now, it seems you can't have all three at once. Pushing for more capabilities seems to kill the personality, and bolting on heavy safety makes it feel robotic. You have to choose.
So the question really isn't just for OpenAI, it's for all of us. As this technology gets more and more powerful, as it becomes a bigger part of our lives, we have to decide what we're willing to sacrifice. Do we want raw power, a human-like personality, or critical safety? Because right now, it really seems like we can't have it all.